Much of the country is in for a cold snap coming in this weekend. But before it does, we do have a little bit of summer left, but it is going to go down a gear as we head back in towards a sort of a cold spell. There is good news. The cold spell will be short-lived. In fact, the same high that's going to help create the cold snap is also going to be our saviour by coming in around about Tuesday or Wednesday, settling the weather back down. So let's run you through the next couple of days, get your head around what is actually happening. So the high that's been over us, it's actually this one here, moving away to the east, and that leaves us a little bit vulnerable in between that departing high and this guy that's still yet to come in. This is next week's high, bringing in the summer weather again. But before it does that, like I say, there's a sort of vulnerable area in here, and we're seeing winds and a few weak fronts pushing up through today. They're mostly weak, and so the temperatures will just take a slight drop in the upper North Island, maybe by a couple of degrees, in the lower South Island, maybe a few degrees, especially around Canterbury, without that nor'wester quite so prominent. As we go into Saturday, not a lot changes actually. The high still remains weak over the upper North Island, so not a lot changes for you. Most North Island places will be fairly settled and mix of sun and cloud on Saturday. Bit of a breeze picking up though around Cook Strait. Meanwhile in the deep south, things do start to change. We see this new system forming, so the high gradually moves closer, and you can see what I mean by it's helping this low down here bring those southerly winds. So let's have a look at Sunday. We'll change the camera angle, go right down deep south. Here is the South Island, here's Antarctica. The isobars, if you track the one that hits Invercargill, that's where it goes. So it goes a fairly deep south. It goes quite close to Antarctica, and because of that reason we'll see colder air coming in. For January it's going to be very cold. Daytime highs on Sunday probably around 13 degrees for parts of Southland, maybe 14 or 15 for those of you around Canterbury and Otago as that cold change comes through. And by midday Sunday we see it approaching the upper South Island and in towards the North Island. The North Island itself, you can just see there mostly clear skies, but those isobars squeezing up, and the wind will start to pick up from the west for a lot of places on Sunday in the North Island. On Monday it remains cold and windy. This low now to the southeast of us, the high, both of them working together, just like it did back in the August snowstorm, to pull up those cold southerlies. Now, don't worry, we're not getting a snowstorm out of this. All do very well when it's a southeasterly wind. We get a lot more sunlight usually, unless there is a low nearby, and there isn't. In this case, it's just this high coming on through. And as we go to Tuesday, the high very quickly pushes back in. We go back to the normal camera angle, and you can see it pushing in just a few showers in that southeasterly wind, still broad south to southeast wind, tilts more southeasterly for the upper North Island. That's a good wind direction if you like the sun, because places like Bay of Plenty, Waikato and Auckland all do very well when it's a southeasterly wind. We get a lot more sunlight usually, unless there is a low nearby, and there isn't. In this case, it's just this high coming on through. And as we go to Tuesday, the high very quickly pushes back in. We go back to the normal camera angle, and you can see it pushing in just a few showers in that southeasterly wind, still brushing perhaps parts of Hawke's Bay and the Mahia Peninsula. Otherwise, it's not looking too bad. A storm up here, don't worry, it's going this way away from us. This high and the one coming in over here, they're with us for the very rest of January, pretty much, overall. So there we go. Not a bad forecast, but not great, especially with a long weekend on the way for Wellington. Before I go, big storm coming into America. I wanted to show you this. America's actually had a very quiet winter. Not a great deal of stormy activity, quite warm in fact. And you can see in here, it's all looking pretty calm and nothing too dramatic. But look at this. This is a big storm on the way. Two storms merging in here. We've got a massive snowstorm. Predictions of up to 3 meters of snow for some of the mountains. Mount Rainier, one of the casualties of that big snowfall coming through there. This is going to wallop the Pacific Northwest. That includes Seattle and also Vancouver. This is a big storm coming on in, so be checking the headlines for that over the next few days. That's all from me. For now, get ready for the cold snap, and we'll catch you again next week.